thinking of like weight and like, like I've always had this like binge eating disorder and like I want to binge and I
Yep.
want to eat. I've always been so hungry, so
Hmm.
hungry. And he is he's the bread of life, he satiates this hunger, whereas the enemy, he'll make he I know when the enemy is attacking me because he makes my gut feel like it's hollow. Like I feel like this
Hmm.
hollow and I can never fill it. Like I feel so hungry and I know that's what has happened
Wow.
to me. Yeah, like in childhood, like I would seek comfort. I needed comfort. My stomach would feel hollowed out. And so I would go to the cupboard, right? I would go to food to give me that comfort that I wasn't getting from my parents.
Yes.
And so this is a long held pattern that even in new age things, I couldn't heal myself, right? As a self healer, Christ is healing this within me now. Like this is something I'm working on is the binging and like I go to food to comfort me, especially like the more I grow, like that intimate connection. I have intimacy issues like no other from my childhood. And so when I feel myself getting closer and closer to Christ and that intimacy is growing, like I'll have this moment where like I want to like run away from it almost like I don't feel worthy of it.
Mm.
And this keeps me in separation from God. And when I'm binging, instead of getting closer to Him and like spending time in His Word or whatever it is, like that's
Okay.
when Satan he'll come in and he'll attack me, and he uses food as a way to tempt me. So that's something that
Wow.
Christ is like really helping me to heal, and He's like He's just guiding me in different ways. And like
Yeah.
every time I obey Him and I submit to Him and I listen to Him, it makes me feel connected to Him. And that's all I want. Because when I was seeking food as a child, I was seeking connection. I needed
Hmm.
connection, and nobody was
Yeah.
connecting to me.
Oh
You
my,
know?
this is like the chills. Like that's a mic drop moment. So when you're feeling like way hungrier than you should, that's a sign you need to come to God because you need
Right.
connection. I'm relating this back to my alcohol thing too
Yeah.
because I come home and like some days I just really want a glass of wine and I'm trying to like push past that and like
Mhm.
see what's there. Because I start to tell myself these stories. I'm like, but no, I think it just sounds good. Like the taste of it just would sound good, right? Like on ice, like, and I start to
Yeah.
downplay it. I'm like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, just wait. Like, I get myself to wait an hour. Same thing with food. Wait an
Right.
hour.
Yeah.
And then it's like, keep exploring that. Like, what's really on the other side of that?
Right.
What is it that you're feeling that you don't want to feel?
Right.
And it is the intimacy. So for me, yeah, it was a social thing of wanting to feel close to people, but
Right.
not really knowing how to do that and feeling awkward around
Yeah.
people. And like,
Yeah.
I want to go there and I want to have those conversations and I want to get deep and I want to talk about God and I want to know what's on your heart. But when people don't have the capacity or maybe they're just afraid to do that, I feel like alcohol is a really common thing
Yeah.
society uses because we want to feel close to each other and we just don't
Right.
know how.
Yeah, that was me too. And yeah, it's like being vulnerable. And I felt like back before like I was got into new age, I was kind of like the only way I knew how this is gonna be maybe like sensitive subject, but like the only way I could like sleep with somebody was when I had alcohol. Like,
Mm,
like because I had so many fears of vulnerability, of being seen and being heard for who I truly was. And the only time I could be vulnerable with somebody, especially in that regards of like, really being physically intimate, was when I was drunk. I mean,
yeah.
and like that's like so common in our society, and like it's seen as like just another thing that you do. And so yeah, I can see how it like that liquid courage is what people call it. It helps
Hmm.
you be a little bit like to express yourself a little bit more, let go of your inhibitions. And it is kind of hard to like show up vulnerably, and I notice that now, not necessarily like I will have some wine. I literally just had wine last night, so it's funny that you say that, like, that you're talking about
Well,
it, so maybe that's
it,
something I need to take into
or
consideration too.
maybe it's not adulterous for you. Maybe it's
Right,
not,
right,
you know?
right. Yeah, that's true, yeah, where I'm not like but sometimes I feel like maybe I do, or, like, when I choose to go to the wine because I'm avoiding being with Christ. Like, so I have my own issues, like, when it comes to
Absolutely.
that.
And I think we will
Um,
forever. Like, we're human,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
It's just catching ourselves. I think that
right,
was, before I knew Christ, I didn't know, like, I didn't know my limits. I didn't know when was too
right,
far. It goes back to discernment. I didn't have any
yeah,
discernment. And so it
right,
was just like a tornado. Like, I was a mess, and everything in my way was gonna be destroyed with it. And so,
Right.
yeah, so now it's like, when you have Christ and you have literally the Bible, what is that acronym? The basic instructions before leaving Earth, but honestly, while you're
Oh,
on Earth
really?
too.
I've
You
never
have
heard of that.
no?
No,
So
but I like it.
it's like a rule book. It's, you
Right.
have it gives you more discernment, it helps you know, and I feel like now I'm able to catch myself. It's like I might still stumble a little bit here and there, but I catch myself a lot quicker. I don't go stumbling down the mountain anymore.
Right, yeah. And for me too, like I've noticed that like when I do fall into temptation because nobody is perfect. The only perfect human that existed was Jesus Christ, so we're all sinful by nature and that's okay. Like but I've noticed that when I do fall into temptation, whatever that temptation looks like, I come to repentance way quicker.
Mm,
Like I ask for forgiveness way sooner. I say, "I'm sorry, Father." Like I just have that intimate conversation with him, and he is forgiving. That's what's so beautiful about him is he's graceful. But also there is a difference between like habitual sin and the sin that's covered in the blood of Christ. And you know, when we're habitually sinning, that's a completely different experience from like when
for sure.
we're living for Christ and we happen to sin. Like it's a very different experience. And I think a lot of people are just living in habitual sin, but they don't know it. They don't know that it's sin. I certainly did not know it. It's just kind of something like that's
Yeah.
generational. It's passed down from generation to generation until somebody comes to Christ. And
Yeah.
then he breaks those chains of bondage.